It's early morning, and there's a small, dark, oddly shaped beetle sitting perfectly still on your windowsill, catching the first bit of sunlight before the day even starts. Most people glance at it for half a second, assume it's just another random bug that wandered in overnight, and move on without a second thought. That beetle is not random, and it is not lost. What it's capable of doing, starting the moment the sun actually rises, is something that convinced an entire ancient civilization they were watching a god recreate itself every single morning. And there's a twist near the end of this story, something most people never find out, that changes everything you're about to assume about this insect. Most people guess this thing is just a slow, clumsy little wanderer that bumps into walls and dirt. The real answer isn't even close to that. And by the time we get to the end, you're going to find out that the calm little beetle on your windowsill might, right now, either be quietly guarding something she fought to keep, or quietly plotting to take something that isn't hers. Stay until the end. Let's follow this one from the second the sunlight actually hits her. The moment she starts moving, she's already using a compass most animals don't even have access to. Scarab beetles, a group that includes dung beetles and thousands of related species, are among the only insects on the entire planet confirmed to navigate using the night sky, specifically the Milky Way itself. In 2013, researchers ran a now famous experiment where they placed dung beetles inside a planetarium under a fully simulated night sky. No landmarks, no light pollution, nothing but stars overhead. The beetles still rolled their dung balls in a dead straight line. When the stars were switched off and only a diffuse, featureless glow was left, the same beetles wandered in useless circles, completely lost, unable to hold a direction at all. That small dark insect currently sitting on your windowsill belongs to a family of animals that is, as far as science currently knows, the only group besides humans confirmed to steer by the galaxy. Now watch what she actually does once she finds something worth working for. A scarab beetle that locates a fresh source of dung doesn't just sit on it and feed. She shapes a portion of it into a near-perfect sphere using her front legs, climbs on top, and rolls it, sometimes for hours, across ground far rougher and more uneven than her own tiny body should reasonably be able to cross. Here's the detail that catches people off guard. She often rolls away from the pile in the straightest line possible, as fast as she can manage, not because she's disoriented, but because a straight line is the single fastest way to escape every other beetle in the area, who will absolutely try to steal that ball the second they spot it. Some species can move a ball more than 50 times their own body weight. Scaled up to a person, that's the equivalent of one human being dragging a fully loaded semi-truck down a street alone, using nothing but leg strength, in a dead straight line, under a compass made entirely of starlight. And this is where the story takes a turn most people never see coming. That straight-line sprint isn't paranoia. It's a direct response to something that happens constantly in the dung beetle world, and it's the part almost nobody talks about. A meaningful percentage of scarab beetles in any given area aren't builders at all. They're thieves. Certain individuals, sometimes even certain species entirely, have evolved to do essentially nothing but watch. They wait near a dung source, let another beetle do all the work of shaping and rolling a ball, and then physically hijack it, wrestling the original owner off her own creation and stealing the ball outright, sometimes fighting for it, sometimes simply overpowering a smaller beetle and rolling away with hours of someone else's labor. Scientists call this kleptoparasitism, and in some dung beetle populations, researchers have documented that a significant share of buried brood balls, the ones meant to become a nursery for a single egg, didn't end up with the beetle that originally built them at all. They ended up stolen mid-transport by a beetle that contributed nothing except brute force at exactly the right moment. That small, seemingly peaceful insect on your windowsill isn't just an architect and a navigator. Depending on the day, she might currently be defending a stolen inheritance, or she might be the one who's about to lose everything she just built. Some populations have such consistent theft pressure that researchers studying them describe the whole system less like quiet farming and more like a constant, low-grade turf war playing out in the dirt beneath your feet, one that's been running in the exact same patch of ground, generation after generation, long before your house was ever built there. By the time she survives the run and finds safe ground, something even stranger is happening underground. Once she reaches a secure patch of soil, she buries the ball and lays a single egg inside it. That buried sphere isn't just storage. It's a sealed nursery, packed with enough food to carry a larva through its entire early development without the mother ever coming back to check on it. In the process of burying dung this way, at scale, across an entire region, dung beetles move an enormous amount of organic material back into the soil, aerating it and cycling nutrients that whole ecosystems have quietly come to depend on. In parts of Australia, ranchers actually imported foreign dung beetle species on purpose, specifically because native insects couldn't process the sheer volume of waste being produced by imported cattle, and untreated dung was smothering entire fields of grazing land. A beetle small enough to sit comfortably on your fingertip was, quite literally, flown in to fix a nationwide agricultural crisis. And this is where the story goes back roughly 4,000 years. Ancient Egyptians watched this exact same behavior, a small beetle pushing a round ball across open ground, seemingly appearing from nowhere, and they built an entire piece of their cosmology around it. They noticed the sphere resembled the sun itself rolling across the sky. And then, they noticed something that must have looked genuinely supernatural at the time. Weeks after a ball was buried and forgotten, a brand new beetle would climb up out of the ground, seemingly created from nothing, seemingly self-generated from dirt and dung, with no visible parent involved. The Egyptians had no way of seeing the egg and larva stage happening completely out of sight, underground. What they saw, from the outside, was a creature that appeared to push the sun across the sky each day, and then birth itself from the earth on a schedule. That single observation became the god Khepri, tied to rebirth, transformation, and the sunrise itself. Scarab amulets were carved and placed directly over the hearts of mummified pharaohs, believed to protect and even represent the heart during final judgment in the afterlife. The beetle currently sitting on your windowsill is, genetically and behaviorally, doing the same core sequence of actions that convinced an entire civilization it had witnessed a god quietly recreating itself every single morning. And here's the part that changes how you'll look at the very next one you see. The specific rolling and burying behavior isn't universal across every scarab species. The family is enormous, over 30,000 species worldwide, and many of them share something else instead, an unusually acute sense of smell, capable of detecting a fresh food source from significant distances, sometimes arriving within minutes of a resource appearing anywhere nearby. A scarab beetle showing up somewhere new isn't wandering aimlessly. It followed a scent trail with real precision, using a sensory system built for exactly this task, and it may currently be navigating that spot using a mental map calibrated, in some species, against the actual stars above your roof. There's one more layer to this most people never think to ask about, and it's the part that quietly explains almost everything you've just watched. Why would evolution build a compass this precise for an insect this small, one that could theoretically just wander until it bumps into food by accident? The answer comes down to a brutal math problem every dung beetle is constantly solving without knowing it. A fresh dung pile is a chaotic, crowded resource. Dozens of beetles can converge on the same pile within minutes of it appearing, and every second spent circling, backtracking, or wandering is a second another beetle spends stealing your work instead. A beetle that moves in a straight line clears the danger zone faster than one that wanders. It gets its ball buried sooner. It gets its egg laid before a thief catches up. Over millions of years, the beetles with slightly better navigation simply out-reproduce the ones without it, generation after generation, until an insect with a brain smaller than a grain of rice ended up with one of the most precise natural navigation systems ever documented in the animal kingdom. Every straight line she rolls is the end result of an arms race that's been running since long before the pyramids the Egyptians built in her honor even existed. That small dark beetle sitting on your windowsill this morning. You almost walked past it without a second look. It may belong to a family capable of steering by the Milky Way when nothing else is visible. It can, in some species, move more than 50 times its own body weight in a straight line under open sky, running not just toward a goal, but away from thieves who share its own species. It quietly reshapes soil health across entire continents when nobody's watching. And roughly 4,000 years ago, an entire civilization looked at that same small, dirt-covered insect and decided they were watching a god rebuild the sun from nothing, every single morning, without fail. Tell me in the comments, have you ever actually stopped to watch one of these up close? I want to hear it. I read every single one. I'll see you in the next one.